The first memory that hit me was the piercing wail of a hospital monitor, followed by a jolt that burned through my chest like wildfire. My body arched, then collapsed, every muscle screaming in protest. I thought I drifted into a dream, a soft, hazy escape from the pain, but the harsh glare of fluorescent lights snapped me back, buzzing like angry hornets overhead. My throat was sandpaper, dry and raw, each swallow a rasp of effort. My vision flickered in and out, shapes blurring into a kaleidoscope of white coats and sterile walls. A face hovered above me, close enough that I could see the faint stubble on his chin. His name tag read Marcus, and his eyes, kind but shadowed with worry, told me more than his words ever could. "You're safe, Mrs. Davis. Rest now." Safe. The word rang hollow in my ears, an echo I couldn't trust, bouncing off the cold tiles like a lie. My chest felt cleaved open, as if someone had taken a dull blade to my ribs and pried them apart. My mind scrambled through the fog, desperate for something solid to cling to, some anchor in this storm of confusion. Two names surfaced like buoys in a turbulent sea. Melissa, my daughter, with her sharp wit and unyielding drive. Jason, my son, the gentle soul who'd always hidden his hurts behind a quiet smile. They were my everything, the reasons I'd pushed through after their father's death, working those endless double shifts at the school, scraping by to give them the life he couldn't. "Where are they?" I croaked, my lips cracking like old leather under the strain. Marcus paused, his hand hovering over mine as if deciding whether to offer comfort or retreat. He shook his head gently, his voice a murmur. "Don't push yourself, ma'am. You've had a rough go, a stroke that nearly took you. Just breathe easy for now." That night, as the ward grew still and the beeps of machines lulled into a monotonous rhythm, I overheard him by my bedside. His voice was low, meant for the phone pressed to his ear, not for me. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but in the quiet, every word sliced through the air like a knife. "Yes, ma'am. She's stable now. Conscious, yes. Would you like to speak to her?" A long pause, heavy with unspoken tension. "All right, I understand. Just thought you'd want to know." He hung up, sighing softly, and the words lingered like poison in the room. My daughter, Melissa, with her organized life and perfect plans, had been on the other end. And she'd said no. She knew I was alive, clinging to life by threads of 4 lines and monitors, and she'd chosen silence. I stared at the ceiling, tiles blurring through unshed tears, my pulse pounding louder than when my heart had faltered in the first place. My own children, the ones I'd raised through storms of grief, knew I was here, and they turned away. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains, casting a pale glow over the room. A nurse bustled in, her scrubs whispering as she cleared my bedside table, stacking trays and adjusting the water cup. That's when I spotted it, a folded scrap of lined paper, tucked casually under the cup like an afterthought. My hands shook as I reached for it, fingers numb and clumsy from the meds. I unfolded it slowly, the paper crinkling in the quiet. "Gone for 10 days. Hope you're better when we get back. M&J." No warmth, no phone numbers, no promises of hurried returns. Just a note as cold and impersonal as a grocery list left on the fridge. Tears didn't come, not then. Instead, a heavy numbness settled over me, thicker and colder than any 4-drip could induce. My children, the ones I'd carried through their father's sudden death, through scraped knees and broken hearts, through college dreams and first jobs, they jetted off to some sunny escape, chasing waves or cocktails, while I fought to breathe in this sterile cage. The ICU's hum of machines faded into the background, replaced by a silence sharper than any betrayal I could have imagined, a void where their love should have been. 9 days later, days that blurred into a haze of tests, pokes, and whispered consultations, they finally wheeled me out of the ICU. I clutched a discharge packet in one hand, a paper bag of medications rattling in the other, each pill a reminder of my fragility. No familiar faces waited in the lobby, no hugs or relieved sighs. Just a hospital volunteer, an older woman with a polite smile and a name tag reading Betty, who offered her arm as she helped me into the transport van. "Take it easy, dear," she said, her voice kind but distant. The drive back to San Antonio was quiet, the driver fiddling with the radio, switching between static-laced country songs and talk shows. I gazed out the window at the passing highways, the familiar sprawl of the city blurring by, steeling myself to feel at home again. But when the van pulled up to my curb, my stomach twisted into knots. The curtains in the windows were different, brighter, unfamiliar. The porch chairs, the ones Frank and I had bought on our anniversary, were gone, leaving bare spots on the wood. I fumbled my way up the steps, leaning on the railing for support, and reached for the ceramic frog planter by the door, the one that had always hidden a spare key under its belly. My fingers searched the empty space. Nothing. Panic flickered, but I knocked instead, the sound echoing hollowly. 15 minutes passed. Minutes of standing there, vulnerable under the Texas sun, my legs aching, before the door finally swung open. It wasn't Melissa's warm embrace or Jason's shy grin waiting for me. It was Ryan, my daughter's husband, standing there with a Starbucks cup in hand, looking like a guilty thief caught mid-heist. His face paled, eyes widening. "Mrs. Davis," he stammered, shifting his weight. You're back early. We weren't expecting you so soon." His words hung awkward in the air, but I brushed past him without a reply, each step heavier than the last, like wading through molasses. The living room wasn't mine anymore. Furniture had been rearranged into some modern configuration I didn't recognize, the cozy chaos of my life smoothed out into something sterile. Walls were half-painted in a trendy gray I'd never choose, cold, impersonal. My wedding photos, the ones of Frank and me laughing under that old oak tree, were shoved unceremoniously into a cardboard box in the corner, gathering dust. On the dining table, amidst scattered paint samples, a glossy flyer caught my eye. I lifted it with trembling hands, the paper slick under my fingers. Charming southern home, perfect for young families. Spacious layout, updated kitchen, ready for new memories. It was my address, my home of 27 years, listed for sale like some commodity on a real estate site. I sank into the nearest chair, my legs giving out as if the weight of it all had finally crushed me. My eyes darted to the kitchen counter, where a manila folder lay open, papers spilling out like secrets too big to contain. Power of attorney forms stared back at me, my signature scrawled at the bottom in a shaky hand, dated 3 years back, during my hip surgery recovery. Melissa had hovered by my bed then, her voice soothing. "It's just routine paperwork, Mom. For insurance, in case anything happens. Sign here, it'll be fine." I'd been groggy on painkillers, trusting her like always. Now, it was weaponized against me, a tool to strip away my independence. Desperate for answers, I grabbed Jason's old iPad from the pantry shelf, the one he'd left behind years ago. By some miracle, it still had battery. The screen lit up, and his Messages app opened, careless, unlocked. Texts between him and Melissa spilled out, each one a dagger. "Melissa, once Mom's house sells, we're free. No more strings." Jason, "Yeah, assisted living's all set up. No more baggage holding us back." Baggage. That's what I was to them now. Me, the mother who'd worked double shifts as an English teacher after Frank's heart attack took him too soon, who'd skipped meals to pay for their tuition, who'd wired money when Ryan's startup collapsed and left them drowning in debt. My chest ached, a deep, throbbing pain that had nothing to do with the stroke. This wasn't a mistake or bad timing. They were erasing me, piece by piece, as if I were already gone. Sleep evaded me that night. I sat at the kitchen table under the dim glow of a single bulb, the flyer crumpled in my fist, staring at it like it was my own death notice. The house creaked around me, echoes of better days. Frank's laughter filling the rooms, Melissa's piano practice tinkling from the living room, Jason's model airplanes scattered on the floor. How had it come to this? By dawn, The numbness had hardened into resolve. I wasn't going to scream or beg for explanations. I was going to fight, quietly and fiercely, the way I'd always done. I remembered Daniel Ruiz, a shy boy from my English class years ago, the one who'd blossomed under my encouragement, turning his love for poetry into a law degree. Now he had his own firm on the west side of San Antonio. I dialed with steady fingers. "Daniel, this is Eleanor Davis. Do you remember me?" His voice lit up on the other end. "Mrs. Davis? Of course, the teacher who made me believe in words. What's wrong? You sound off." I poured it all out, the power of attorney, the sale listing, the damning messages. He listened without interruption, his silence attentive. "This is elder abuse territory," he said finally, his tone sharpening. "Meet me at my office today. We can stop this." His office was modest, tucked above a bustling taqueria, the air thick with the scent of fresh tortillas. Daniel flipped through the documents I'd brought, his calm demeanor giving way to a determined glint. "They overreached big time," he said, tapping the POA form. "This doesn't authorize real estate transfers or asset liquidation. It's invalid for what they're trying. We'll file to revoke it immediately and restore your autonomy." Relief washed over me like a cool wave, making me dizzy. For the first time in weeks, I felt the ground solid beneath my feet. That afternoon, he submitted the petition, promising to fast-track it through his connections. "If we move now, we can turn the tables before they even realize." That evening, I wandered through the house, tracing fingers over familiar surfaces, the indent in the carpet from the old couch, the faint outline of a Christmas tree stand etched into the floorboards. Memories flooded back. Frank proposing on one knee in this very living room, the kids' laughter during family game nights. I pulled a shoebox from the pantry, my emergency cash stash, and a worn notebook of passwords I'd kept since the 90s, back when life felt simpler. They thought I was powerless, a fading old woman. They forgot who raised them, who taught them resilience. By sunset, I'd called a locksmith and changed every lock on the doors. Ryan showed up an hour later, tools in hand, rattling the knob in confusion. Through the Ring camera feed on my phone, his face twisted in surprise. "Mrs. Davis? It's Ryan. I left some stuff inside." I pressed the speaker button, my voice steady. "Take your tools and leave before I call the police. This isn't your house anymore." He muttered something incoherent, grabbed his bag, and slunk away, shoulders hunched like a defeated dog. In the ensuing silence, a sharper truth settled in. I wasn't just their mother anymore. I was their mark, an obstacle to their breathing room. Daniel worked miracles. Within 3 days, the court had rescinded the power of attorney, handing me back full control with a stamped order that felt like armor. But staying in that house meant living in a trap, waiting for the next scheme. No, I'd leave on my own terms, before they could corner me again. I relist the property myself, cash buyers only, no contingencies. A young couple appeared almost immediately, starry-eyed and eager, with an offer that closed in 11 days. On the final day, I stood in the empty living room, perched on a folding chair, eating a peanut butter sandwich off a paper plate. The walls echoed my whispers, "This is the last time you betray me." The next morning, I marched into the bank, closing every joint account they'd ever touched, draining the balances into new ones under a fresh name. Nora Williams, a subtle nod to my grandmother's maiden name. Signing those papers felt strange, like slipping into a coat that was both foreign and perfectly tailored. I packed only the essentials, Frank's old wristwatch, ticking softly with memories, a bundle of faded photographs from happier times, and a box of Melissa and Jason's childhood drawings, crayoned masterpieces of stick-figure families under sunny skies. The rest, furniture, dishes, those mismatched curtains, was junk now, remnants of a life stolen long before I walked away. Before leaving, I penned 2 short notes, one for each child, and left them on the kitchen counter beside the realtor's card. No accusations, no pleas, Just 10 simple words. Thank you for showing me who you really are. At sunrise, I loaded my dusty silver Corolla, the kind of car no one notices, and drove north without a GPS or a fixed plan. The highway stretched like an open vein, pulling me away from San Antonio's heat. By dusk, I'd crossed into Arkansas, pulling into a town so small it barely registered on maps. Fairhaven, its welcome sign proclaiming, a place to rest. I took it as fate's gentle nudge. I paid cash for a modest trailer behind a hardware store, the landlord, a wiry man named Jim, asking only 2 questions. Do you smoke? Cash or check? I answered no and cash, and that sealed it. That first night, lying on a thin mattress with my boxes stacked like makeshift walls, I waited for the fear to crash over me, the what-ifs, the regrets. Instead, a profound relief settled in, light as a summer breeze. For the first time since my heart had stuttered to a stop, I could breathe without the weight of expectation crushing me. In Fairhaven, I shed Eleanor Davis like an old skin and became Nora Williams, retired librarian from Roanoke, Virginia, widowed, childless, seeking quiet. It was a story simple enough to remember, and in a town of just 6,000 souls, no one pried too deep. People here respected the unspoken rule, everyone's hiding from something, but we don't ask. I started volunteering at the local library twice a week, shelving books and repairing worn bindings. The scent of aged paper and dust enveloped me like an old friend, more comforting than my San Antonio home ever had been. Soon, the staff greeted me with warm smiles, and the children lingered around my station because I remembered their names and favorite stories. That's how I met Claire. She worked the night shift at the diner across the street, a single mother with tired eyes that crinkled when she laughed and a resilience that mirrored my own. Her son, Ethan, only 8, trailed behind her after school, clutching dog-eared comic books and beaming with unfiltered joy. The first time he slipped up and called me Grandma Nora, my throat tightened with a mix of ache and warmth. I didn't correct him. Instead, I ruffled his hair and asked about his latest superhero adventure. Days melted into a gentle rhythm, mornings lost in library stacks, afternoons helping Ethan with homework over snacks, evenings sharing coffee with Claire as she unwound from her shift. I kept a small notebook under my pillow, jotting down every detail of my new identity. Nora, no children, no Texas ties, as if writing it would make the lies unbreakable. And for a while, it worked. My lungs filled easier. My chest no longer felt like a fragile shell. Ethan's innocent laughter, given freely without strings, stitched the broken parts of me back together. But peace, I learned, is fragile. One evening in July, everything shifted. It was Ethan's 9th birthday, a modest celebration in the back room of the VFW hall. Claire had strung up paper streamers and baked mismatched cupcakes, their frosting lopsided but made with love. I sat beside Ethan, clapping as he tore through wrapping paper, his eyes wide with delight. Someone handed me a party hat, and I donned it without thinking, laughing as Ethan leaned against me for a hug. A bubbly mom with a blonde bob filmed the whole thing on her phone, a quick 30-second clip of Ethan unwrapping a toy car while I helped him read the card aloud. She uploaded it to her Instagram, tagging it with hashtags like #smalltownjoy and #birthdaymagic. Harmless, I thought. 3 days later, Claire burst into the library during my shift, her face pale as milk, phone clutched in her hand. Nora, you need to see this. The video had gone viral, reposted on a popular parenting blog, then exploded across TikTok. Someone, some internet sleuth with too much time, had matched my face to old news clippings from San Antonio. Missing grandmother disappears after family betrayal? The caption screamed, "Found her! Grandma Ghost is alive in Fairhaven, new name, building a new family." My stomach plummeted. In seconds, my carefully constructed world cracked wide open. By morning, the video had surpassed 1 million views. Comments flooded in, a chaotic mix of praise and vitriol. She's a legend, escaping toxic family. What kind of monster abandons her kids? They abandoned her first. Read the story. My face was everywhere. Forums, podcasts, TikTok duets dissecting my escape. I sat at my trailer's kitchen table that night, notebook open, frantically rewriting my cover story as if words could shield me. Nora Williams, retired librarian, widowed, no children. But the lies felt paper-thin now, fragile as tissue. Claire tried to reassure me over tea, her hand on mine. Online storms blow over in a week. People forget. But I knew better. If the world saw me, so would Melissa and Jason. 2 days later, it happened. A silver Toyota with Texas plates crept past the library parking lot, circling twice like a predator scenting prey. It parked deliberately, and the driver's door opened. Melissa stepped out, jeans, a simple cardigan, a paper coffee cup trembling in her grip. She looked older, smaller, as if the weight of her choices had eroded her shine. She stood by the entrance, scanning the sidewalk until her eyes locked on me through the glass door. I froze behind the book stacks, heart hammering. 5 minutes ticked by before I mustered the strength to step outside, my hands shaking but my shoulders squared. She stared, lips parting as if confirming I was real, not a ghost. Then her voice cracked on one word, "Mom." For a fleeting moment, an old reflex stirred, the urge to comfort her, to wipe away the tears welling in her eyes, the way I had when she was small and scraped her knee. But it vanished like smoke. "Please don't walk away," she whispered, stepping closer. I met her gaze, unflinching. "I already held my funeral. You just weren't there." The words landed like a slap. She flinched, gripping her cup tighter. "We didn't know how bad it was," she said, voice trembling. "We thought you were fine. We thought—" I laughed, a loud, bitter sound that echoed off the building. "You left me alone in a hospital bed, fighting for my life. You tried to sell my house while I was still breathing. Don't you dare say you didn't know." Tears slid down her face, raw and silent. She looked nothing like the confident daughter I'd raised, more like a stranger wearing her skin. "I was scared," she murmured. "Scared of watching you fade. I made mistakes. Horrible ones." "You made choices," I corrected, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "And now I'm making mine." She reached out, hand half raised as if to bridge the chasm between us. I didn't move. "I'm not coming back, Melissa. I found a new life, one that doesn't require pretending we were ever okay." Her mouth opened, then closed, words failing her. The silence stretched, heavier than the years we'd lost. Finally, I turned and walked away, not dramatically, not with fury, but with quiet finality. Her sobs followed me, but I didn't look back. It was 3 weeks before Jason reached out, not with a call or a visit, but a letter slipped through the library's book return slot. The envelope bore my new name, Nora, in his familiar scrawl. Inside was a single folded sheet, my own writing from the ICU, scribbled when I thought death was near. "If I don't wake up, please forgive me. If I do, please come. I'm scared." Jason had added in the margins, his ink shaky and desperate, "We didn't know how bad it was. I thought Melissa would handle it. I thought you'd understand. I'm so sorry, Mom." For 2 nights, the letter sat on my table, untouched, as I wrestled with the ache it stirred. Then, against my better judgment, I emailed him from a burner account. 1 visit. No cameras, no excuses. Bring the letter. We met at the cemetery on the edge of town, a place where truths felt weightier amid the silent headstones. I sat on a bench near Frank's grave, the engraved words "beloved husband and father" a stark reminder of what family once meant. Jason approached slowly, clutching a tote bag like a shield, his face gaunt. For a moment, he looked like the boy he'd been, wide-eyed and nervous on his first day of school. But as he sat a few feet away, I saw the man who'd betrayed me. He handed me the envelope without a word. I scanned his additions again, the pleas curling around my old fears. Finally, he spoke, voice raw and breaking. "I couldn't face it, watching you get weak. I thought if we moved fast, planned ahead, it would hurt less for everyone." I turned to him, throat tight. "I didn't need you to be strong, Jason. I needed you to show up, to hold my hand when I was scared." His face crumpled, tears streaming. "You think I don't hate myself? You think I sleep at night, knowing what we did?" "I think you sleep better than I did in that hospital bed," I replied softly, the words laced with quiet sorrow, wondering why my own children couldn't be there. Silence enveloped us, thick as the fog rolling over the graves. "Can I come back?" he asked, voice cracking like a child's. "Can we try again?" "Please, Mom." I shook my head slowly. "That part of me, the one who waited for you, you already buried. And this time I chose the funeral." He reached for a hug, arms tentative. I stepped back, not harshly, but firmly, the gesture final. As I walked away, his sobs echoed through the cemetery, raw and wrenching. But they weren't mine to carry anymore. I left them there, with the stones and the silence. The morning after, in my trailer, I sat at the table with a fresh sheet of notebook paper. At the top, I wrote 2 words, "You survived." Below, I listed everything I'd left behind: a house that no longer held warmth, a name burdened with pain, children who'd seen me as an inconvenience. Then what I'd gained: quiet mornings filled with purpose, honest conversations over coffee, the unbridled laughter of a boy who loved me without expectation, a friend who saw my strength. I folded the paper and slid it into the shoebox under my bed, alongside Ethan's latest drawings and the single photograph I'd kept of Melissa and Jason, frozen in time as happy kids, back when they believed I could fix anything. That afternoon, Claire called me over to help Ethan trim the hedges in front of their porch. The sun warmed my shoulders as I clipped away overgrown branches, the rhythmic snip-snip grounding me. Ethan ran up, breathless, holding a chipped seashell from the nearby creek. "Grandma Nora, look what I found." "It's treasure." I smiled without hesitation, kneeling to his level. "It's perfect. Let's build a castle with it, shells for walls, sticks for towers." We spent the hour in the dirt, stacking and res-tacking, laughing when our creations tumbled. For the first time in years, I felt whole, not because the wounds had vanished, but because I'd learned to live around them. That evening, as the light faded, I sat on Claire's porch swing, watching Ethan chase fireflies in the yard, their glow dancing like tiny stars. Claire leaned against the railing, handing me a mug of tea. "Do you ever regret it, leaving everything behind?" I thought of the hospital monitor's wail, the cold note on the bedside table, the flyer that commodified my life. "No," I said firmly. "I regret staying as long as I did, hoping for change that never came." She nodded, and we let the silence stretch, comfortable and true, broken only by Ethan's giggles. The world outside still buzzed with my story, strangers online debating if I was a villain for vanishing or a hero for reclaiming my life. Podcasts dissected the ghost grandma saga, forums speculated on my whereabouts. But here, in this quiet corner of Fair Haven, I wasn't a headline or a scandal. I wasn't Eleanor Davis, the abandoned mother. I was simply Nora, volunteer, friend, chosen grandma. And that was more than enough. The lesson etched into my soul was simple, yet profound. Family isn't defined by the blood in your veins, but by the ones who show up when the world crumbles. It's the hand that steadies you in weakness, the voice that answers your call in the dark. And sometimes, when the family you're born into fails, it's the one you choose that mends you, that reminds you life can begin anew, even after the deepest betrayals. In Fair Haven, under starlit skies, I finally understood. I hadn't just survived. I'd been reborn.